Let's go. It's your man Mike Bowens coming to you once again live and direct. I'm excited this morning. I'm amped this morning. I'm pumped this morning. Listen, I don't know if you're listening to this during the morning, during the afternoon, or in the evening, but this message really struck me, really impacted me, and I'm thinking to myself, God, you put these words in my mind, and you want me to speak this to your people. So this is the message. I'm giving you a message from the topic: 7 words you want to hear when you die from Jesus. Yeah, it's a little deep, but somebody got to tell the truth out here. 7 words you want to hear when you die from Jesus. I'm going to lead up to what that answer is. Oftentimes in life, we think about the day-to-day. Most people don't think about death. They don't think about the afterlife. They think about only the here and now. Okay, I got to make this money. I got to pay this bill. I got to get my child this, or I got to get life insurance. I got to get health insurance. I got to get all these insurances, right? You're trying to get a promotion. You're trying to get to the next level, which is all good because God made us that way to plan, to thrive, to progress. Don't get me wrong. I'm very goal-oriented, and I love to progress in life. But at the same time, I have to be aware and alert that this life right here is only temporary. You're here for a moment, right? The Bible says that life is like a vapor. I can remember when I was just in kindergarten. I tell my wife this all the time. I can remember before kindergarten. I don't know how many people can relate to that, but I can remember that. And I can remember being with my mom and my sister and my brother and my nieces and cousins and nephews and grandparents. And slowly but surely, a grandparent dies. You know, recently I lost my mom. Other people around me start to pass, to transition, you know, from this life into the next. And, you know, learning the Bible and hearing about Jesus and having a personal relationship with him, you understand that the words that he spoke were true, because I see it more and more every day in the life that I'm living. You know, love your neighbor as yourself, and you know, things that's happening in the world today. You would never believe that these things are written in the Bible. And so if all of these things that we're seeing, wars and rumors of wars, and how to deal with finances and how to handle your relationships, and everything that's written in the Bible is coming to pass, wouldn't it also be true that there's 7 words you're going to hear from Jesus when you die? Right? 7 words you want to hear from Jesus when you die, right? And I'm gonna tell you, because I don't want to keep you in suspense any longer. That is, well done, my good and faithful servant. Well done, my good and faithful servant. So that's what you want to hear from Jesus when you die. And how does one accomplish that? Right? When you go to Matthew chapter 25 and you read throughout that book, that chapter, he explains to you that when you love the least of those, you love him. What does that mean? He said, when I was in prison, you visited me. When I was hungry, you fed me. When I was naked, you clothed me. Right? The Bible also tells us to be careful how we entertain strangers, because you could be entertaining angels. I just recently heard the most interesting testimony. It's a woman that I go to visit. She's an older lady, and she's been around for a long time. She has a lot of wisdom. She tells me stories. And one story she told me how her husband was driving, I think he was driving a tractor, and he was crossing the street. And there was a woman, an old woman, crossing the street. So he stopped the tractor and he got out the tractor to help her walk across the street. She had a cane. She was, she's barely making it down the street. So he stopped to help her. And the lady said to him, "Thank you, my son." And he said, "No problem, no problem." And then the police pulled up behind him and said, "You know what? We're going to give you a ticket." And the lady said to him, "I'm going to pay the ticket for you." He said, No, I'm going to pay the ticket, but I just got to help you get across the street." And the lady looked at him again and said, "Thank you, my son." And he looked at her, and while he was walking across the street, the lady disappeared. Now, that doesn't happen on an everyday basis. That doesn't happen, all the time. That's something that you hear from a movie, right? But maybe some of you can attest to meeting people, and 1 minute you're talking to them and next minute they vanish. I'm not talking about they walked somewhere or they ran away somewhere or they hid in plain view. I'm talking about where they vanish, right? We live in a supernatural world, right? You have a physical body, but you have a soul, you have a spirit. And one day your soul, your spirit is going to depart from your body, right? You want to make sure that the words you hear from Jesus is good job, my good and faithful servant, right? We want to make sure that this is how, we're living our lives, right? Are we doing the work that Jesus sent us here to do? Right? Are we doing the work that Jesus sent us here to do? Or are we just, every day just going on about our own business? You go to work, you make the donuts, you make the money, you pay your bills, and the cycle continues. But are we doing anything? Are we developing that personal relationship with God? Are we taking that time out to learn and understand the words of Jesus and to apply them to our lives? Right? Are you participating in your church? Are you visiting the widows, right? Those who have lost their husbands and they can't do for themselves. Are you visiting those type of people? Because the way that the world depicts success today is, I got to get more and more and more, but I'm not helping anybody else, right? Listen, I got to get the bag. But they're not thinking like, dang, if I get the bag, how many people can I feed that don't have food? How many people can I bless with running water who does not have running water in certain countries, third world countries? And it's like having an attitude like this is just bigger than yourself. Because I don't care how much money you have, you're always going to want more if you have that type of mentality. But now, if you have the mentality to help people, it's all right with making as much money as possible because you want to help as many people as possible. So you want to hear those words from Jesus when you die, when you take your last breath and you give up the ghost. When you give up the ghost, you want to hear, good job, my good and faithful servant. This is your man, Mike Bowens, giving you a message that you can live and think about every single day. Subscribe if you haven't. I'm going to keep these messages coming. Until next time, I'm saying, be blessed.